James Gunn claims that he will not start shooting any movie until he has a good script. But how about this then, James? Why not? Why announce a slate of films and streaming shows until you've actually got a great script? Which is not what you actually did. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X, TikTok Mad Mickey's World, and on Snapchat Mick, your host with the most. A very warm welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCU Daily. No, DCU Batman. That is the reality facing James Gunn today and every single day. When he announced the slate, he proudly announced Brave and the Bold, a Batman which would be more fantastical, which would differentiate it, make it different to Matt Reeves' Batman. A very good idea. But somewhere along the line, he, or Peter Safran, or David Zaslav, or Abby and DeLuca said, hang on a minute, mate. We can't have two Batmen. It will not work. And I've heard arguments how the comics have the same characters, different versions of the same characters. Why can't it work in live action? Let me paint you a picture. Right now we've got a new series of Daredevil Born Again. Sadly, I don't have access to Disney Plus in my country here in Cyprus. So thank God for Emergency Awesome and his videos, but I can't watch it. Very sad. But anyway, imagine all of a sudden if we had Daredevil Born Again on D+, then another version of Daredevil, right? It's played by another actor on Netflix, releasing at the same time. Would you really want to watch two different versions of the same character? No. You can have too much of a good thing. And to be fair to James Gunn, he inherited the Batman problem. He inherited a Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman. Matt Reeves wasn't going anywhere. The studio made $750 million globally on the Batman. The Penguin is a huge success. So no one's getting rid of Matt Reeves' Batman saga. There's money in it. He's one of the best writer-directors in the business. And Matt Reeves and what he's doing with Batman is what I want to see. Solo, kind of individual, efforts at these characters. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see a tomato ketchup bottle. I don't want a McDonald's Happy Meal franchise. I don't want that. I don't want DC to go all MCU, but that's what they're doing, and I don't have a say in the matter, and neither do you. I think it was an ill-conceived idea to green-light James Gunn and Peter Safran to run a connected universe. I would rather see different directors doing what Matt Reeves is doing with Batman with other characters. But that's not what we're getting. So to be fair to James Gunn, he inherited this problem. So he proudly announced a DCU Batman. We don't have a script yet. He reckons he's got a mysterious secret writer. Now this is very, very interesting. Wouldn't it be funny that if the reason that Matt Reeves is taking so long on the Batman 2, that he's also writing Brave and the Bold? Hey, why won't he announce who's writing that film if he's telling the truth that someone, in fact, is writing a Brave and the Bold movie? The reality is we are not getting a DCU Batman anytime soon. And this is evidence that James Gunn pulled out his slate, most of his slate, from his backside, that he made it up as he went along. Now, pre-intro, I spoke about him proudly saying, sounding very professional and knowing what he's doing, by not shooting anything with bad scripts. Yes, James, we don't want to see a movie with a bad script green lit. So he's saying we're taking our time, nothing will happen unless the script is good. But you announced a slate, a bunch of streaming shows and movies without a good script, without a script at all. I want to see slates announced, right? An industry that knew what it was doing, and the DCEU was no better, by the way. It was announcing slates without anything happening. But they all do this, by the way. But I think you shouldn't actually announce a slate until you at least got a writer and a good pitch. And you're developing the project at the very least. But he came back the other week and said, well, this is on the back burner, that's on the back burner. It doesn't sound very professional, and already 2 or 3 journalists have written articles about how it's problematic that already he's announced a slate, and half of this stuff is either on the back burner or not happening. Quite right too. It comes across very unprofessional. And the problem is you've got this DCU and they don't have a Batman. Now, if we're to believe that Brave and the Bold will be released in cinemas nationwide in 2027, that means there's no Batman till 2027 or 2028 or whatever. That means we've got Superman, we've got Supergirl, we've got the Lantern Corps, which is being introduced in the Lantern show, which I think is rather problematic, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. And then there's no Batman. What's going on with the DCU Batman? Of course, there are rumours that after Superman, James Gunn will write and direct a Superman and Batman team-up movie. This could solve the problem that he's got. But I think this is why they're trying to keep away from a Batman movie. And the question, of course, remains, will Matt Reeves get to do a trilogy? Is the Batman 2 the final movie? It's all a bit messy. The other day, Robert Pattinson was asked if he'll start shooting with Matt Reeves, the Batman 2. He said, well, I effing hope so, because I started off as a young Batman and I'm going to end up an old Batman. And I mean, it's a great gag, but I think it's one of those jokes which is true, but you make the gag so what you're saying doesn't seem so very, very bad. It's insane how long Reeves takes. And you know, because I really like the Batman, I say take as long as you want, mate, but it's very interesting this time how long that is taking. And some people think that there's no Batman 2. I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say the Batman 2 is happening. They're going to start shooting it later this year. I can't wait to see the sequel. I have issues with the first film. I think there's some current day kind of commentary in the film that isn't great, but I think it's a really, really good film and I enjoyed it, and it felt very, very faithful to the comic book Batman, you know, the great detective, and Robert Pattinson was brilliant. Now, it's been a very interesting situation. I believe, even as he announced Brave and the Bold, James Gunn, and I've said this before, has done everything in his power to try and convince Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson to join the DCU to no avail. Now, you may feel that Matt Reeves would never allow that to happen. Matt Reeves has said publicly it would have to be right. I think, and if we look at it, all of a sudden Matt Reeves is producing a couple of DCU projects like Clayface. And I think this was Gunn's way of a charm offensive to convince Reeves to come over to the DCU. And I think this is kind of a hot take, and I think it will surprise some of you, but I believe that Matt Reeves would be willing to make his Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman, a DCU Batman. When? I don't know, but I think he would be interested in that because I think that Gunn has kind of given some things over to allow this to be accessible to Matt Reeves. But I think there's one person who's in the way of this, who is saying no way. And that's the actual Matt Reeves Batman. Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson has already been stuck in a franchise called Twilight. He's been there and it blighted his later career because he was judged for doing that. I thought it was insane to judge an actor for doing a thing. It was popular. It was a bunch of, it was adapted from a bunch of really successful books. It may not be mine and your cup of tea, but a bunch of people love those movies and those movies made money. Robert Pattinson did nothing wrong making those movies, but as soon as he was cast as Batman, oh, he's in Twilight, that's so dumb, why they cast him as Batman? Are you insane? Robert Pattinson already proved what a great actor he was. But as usual, fanboy social media, knowing nothing about acting, nothing about how the industry works, you can play one character, then play the other. I can play Errol. Hello, I'm Errol. Hello. Then I can play Mick, the posh playboy. Oh, hello, it's Mick. I've been loafing about today in my big, big house. Two different characters. Excuse the bad acting. But you know what I mean? So that was ridiculous. But I think Robert Pattinson's been burnt once by being in a franchise and having that kind of go against him when he went for auditions. He doesn't want to be trapped within another franchise. I think Matt Reeves is interested in making Rob's Batman the DCU Batman as long as he's in control of everything Batman at WB. But I believe it's Robert Pattinson who's saying, no way, I don't want that. I agreed to work with a critically acclaimed director to shape a great Batman trilogy. I did not agree to be part of James Gunn's DCU. And it's very interesting the kind of people, if you look at it, that James Gunn works with. And not a lot of, let's say, critically acclaimed people want to work with Gunn. Don't believe me, I'm using my own eyes and the films that he's made. If you look at it, if you look at Man of Steel, you have Russell Crowe, you have Amy Adams. Now, I'm not saying that the actors playing the roles are not critically acclaimed in James Gunn's Superman movie, but there's no real big names in that movie, and that's interesting to me. Now, Gunn talks about not wanting to work with divas and things like that, and he only works with a select bunch of people, as Christopher Nolan does, by the way. Nolan works with select people. It's interesting with his latest film, Odyssey, where he's opening the scope with the kind of people he's willing to work with. And I'm interested in that because Chris doesn't normally do that. So that's interesting as well. But, I think if we go back to the Batman situation, it's Rob Pattinson that's stopping this from happening. And I'm happy about that. I don't think Robert Pattinson, it would be a solution. But all of a sudden, you've got a fantastical franchise with a more grounded Batman. And Rob Pattinson's Batman wasn't supposed to be part of a franchise. If Rob gets involved with a 5 to 10 year franchise, he's locked in. That means every time he's offered a role somewhere else, he has to remember that he's got to do this here, he's got to do that cameo, and you can do more than one project at once as an actor, but it's difficult and it's harder work. And he doesn't want to do that. And when you look at the type of directors that Pattinson aligns himself with, it's not, James Gunn isn't the kind of guy that Rob really wants to be stuck with. And he doesn't want to be involved. And you can understand it. This Mickey movie that looks fantastic and is getting critical acclaim. That's the type of out there stuff that Rob wants to be involved with. So I do believe it's Robert Pattinson stopping, his Batman becoming the DCU Batman, which creates a problem. What do? Do you have two Batmen? Is it going to work? I don't think so. They released Never Say Never Again and Octopussy in the same year. Do you remember that? And, it was a crazy situation. Two James Bonds at the same time. They both did okay because people did want to see Sean Connery as Bond again because he was the first Bond. Most people's favourite Bond. I'm a Roger Moore guy because Roger Moore was my first Bond. But it's a crazy situation. And for now, there absolutely isn't a DCU Batman.